Another day with Pretzel. Another 7 days of life for you, buddy. How am I supposed to start the podcast with you just sitting here? Welcome back to the All Luck, No Skill podcast. Thanks again for watching. And before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. And today we have Terry Gunter. Thank you very much for coming in today, Terry.
Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate it.
It'll be fun.
I always say this, it's not really the car-centric podcast, but I appreciate you coming on. And what you brought today doesn't fit in the garage.
That's true.
Yeah. And actually, sorry, before we get started, maybe you want to promote yourself. Maybe you have an Instagram that you want to...
I do. So my name is Terry Gunter, like you said. You can find me on Instagram under that handle as well. Not exactly the most car-centric person these days, but I definitely do a lot of landscape photography and travel. So if you like that kind of stuff,
cool.
Definitely feel free to follow along and
gotcha. And that's
see some neat stuff.
Your main outlet is
That's
Instagram?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
That's pretty much the only way to find me is Instagram.
Cool. Go ahead and tell us about what you brought.
Yep. So I have a fully converted 2004 Freightliner SF64 School Bus. It is a conventional 40-foot dog-nose school bus, but it is built a little different. It is 100% off-grid capable.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And how long have you had this?
I realistically only had this for about 2.5 months. So this was a 14.5-month build. I unfortunately wasn't the one building it, but I say that with confidence and poise because it was built far beyond what I would have been able to do.
Sure.
So this was a 14-month project. I picked it up the end of August of 2024. Mm-hmm. And I've just been kind of outfitting it and populating the drawers. And
August 2020, not 2023?
This year.
Oh, you picked it up done, finished.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I can go back a step. So the school bus was bought in January of 2023.
Okay.
Out of Phoenix, Arizona. The bus has never seen rust. It's never seen salted roads.
Just a bunch of heat.
Yeah. Fantastic platform. The bus was then semi-truck trailered all the way to Kansas. I had all of the original school bus windows removed and the height of the roof raised to 12 inches.
And that's why it's got the kind of like the old school RV.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah.
It's a reverse chop top.
Exactly. Right. So I did a little transition front. So I could have gone all the way to the front and lifted the entire roof 12 inches. I did it this way to kind of avoid little Frankenstein forehead look.
Gotcha. Right. Because it would have been that much taller above the...
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of a neat option as well. It affords you the opportunity of putting a nice window up there so at standing height you're not trying to duck down and look out the windshield and stuff. So
gotcha.
I went this route. I feel like it's a little bit cleaner of a look, a little bit more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Obviously that's very subjective, but
that's
the fun part about a school bus. It's we all know what school buses are. Most of us haven't been in a school bus since we were much smaller.
Right.
Even the big school buses, they have about a 6'2" standing height in the very center, which is the highest part of a school bus. Okay. So that's an uninsulated finished school bus.
Right.
So I went up 12 inches. I have about 4 inches of insulation on top. I have about 2 inches of insulation in the subfloor, but that's also a radiant in-floor heat system. Wow. So I'm about a 6'10" standing height in my bus, even at the short sides.
Oh wow! Because it definitely,
absolutely tapers in towards.
But no one's standing on the very edge because you have the cabinetry.
Yeah, but I kind of set it up where you have definitely a central walkway.
Sure.
You do find yourself in the edges. I have a shower along one wall, and the toilet is also along the other wall. So those are obviously the rooms. When you're... It's obviously the rooms that you spend the least amount of time in. But
right.
Yeah, you definitely. It gets a little tighter in those rooms for sure.
How did you get your hands on a bus, and did you buy it sight unseen?
Yes, great question. So long story short, this is actually my second bus.
Oh.
I bought a bus about 6 years ago. Same style bus, different make and model, but same style, 40-foot dog nose school bus. Same situation, had another company build it out. That company kind of imploded all around him after funds were deposited. Luckily, he decided to give me back some of those funds, but it was about a 4-year project where it was only supposed to be about a 12-month project.
Okay. 4 years?
He had a little over 6 figures of money, so I was kind of on eggshells trying to not have to sue the guy and go that route.
He had 6 figures of your money.
That's right. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So at the end of that project, he basically called me and said he doesn't want to do this anymore. Company's closing. I asked him, I don't know what that means. Please explain it. He thankfully gave me back about 95% of my money.
Oh, wow.
Which worked out.
Without having to like chase after it.
Yeah, which is kind of an unheard of move in today's modern world.
Right.
Yep. So this is bus number 2.
Well, sorry, what happened to the first bus?
So the first bus also, I'm sorry, both of these buses were bought sight unseen.
Okay.
So both were out, the first bus was out of Colorado, which is where this other guy's shop was.
Okay.
He flew out there, picked the bus up for me. He had all the original paperwork. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, I probably should have gotten some of those bills of sales and stuff immediately.
Right.
At the end of that project, he decided that he did not want someone. The level of grandeur coming out of this gentleman was through the roof. He didn't want someone else finishing up his awesome job and crapping up the work that he already did.
No.
He chose to not relinquish that bus to me. In hindsight, it worked out better. The bus that I have today is far superior, simply just in like advances in technology aspect. But yeah, so he decided to keep that bus.
That's crazy. So he was like, I'll give you most of your money back, but I'm buying this bus off of you.
Yep.
And so you know that it had progressed and it wasn't just like a shell of a bus.
Yep, it really didn't progress as much as you would think it would in 4 years. It was definitely a little bit beyond a shell of a bus, but not much.
Right. Wow.
For me to even take that bus and be in possession of it would have been probably more of a headache to finish it than starting over.
Sure.
Yep, so that led me to this bus almost 3 months to the date after receiving the funds back from my previous bus.
Oh, wow.
When I started building this bus in comparison to my first bus, there was a lot more shops 5-6 years ago that were actually willing to do these school bus conversions.
Is that because of maybe COVID?
It's not. I think it really, possibly like supply demands and that kind of stuff. But I think it really has much more to do with livable wages and the cost of employees and stuff.
Right.
A school bus, you can have 10 school buses next to each other that are all the same make, model, and design. And rivets are going to be in different places. Holes are going to be in different places. On a school bus, you don't have the opportunity or the luxury of building anything without having the physical bus there.
Right.
Everything is custom made, touched, fit, sanded, trimmed to fit in these buses. So I think as far as like labor costs, I think you go through the roof in these buses in comparison to like a Ford Transit van where all of your holes are going to be a factory position. Right. You're able to build your componentry without necessarily the van there because you have
any transit van will work.
You have laser measurements of where the holes are going to be. Right. That's not the luxury you have in school buses. So I think that probably had a big catalyst of why a lot of these shops closed.
I see.
The cream of the crop, the best one would have been this company called Chrome Yellow. He closed about 6 months before this new project started. I reached out to him and asked him if he was doing this project today, who would he choose? Okay. The gentlemen that built this bus are probably the best in the business for sure today, but probably in that top category for the last decade or so. Definitely a sight unseen bus. All of the work was sight unseen. This build exceeded my budget by quite a bit, and I felt like I had a pretty healthy budget. With that being said, the first time I saw this bus was flying up to Idaho to go pick up a finished project.
Wow.
Yeah.
You had never seen it, just in a picture maybe.
There was
how it looked.
Yep, there was a couple of pictures, updates here and there. Obviously, the builders wanted to show me they were progressing.
Right.
There's a lot of times during these builds of like doing the wire chases and the water lines where you might be doing a lot of like hourly kind of work, but
Right.
in a still photograph, you might not necessarily have that much progression to show a client.
Right.
So I think they were a little hesitant with those weekly pictures on that aspect.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a pretty limited update as far as pictures. It got to a point where we decided the trust was kind of there, and
Right.
they were doing a good
You
job
probably
from
saw
what I
so
saw.
much. Yeah, you probably saw so much more progression from these guys than your last build.
Oh
there,
my
so,
gosh!
yeah.
And the time frame that it was done was just astronomically different.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
1 second. Sorry. And so you flew out to Idaho.
Yep. So this bus was built out of Sandpoint, Idaho, by a company called Yeti Bus.
Okay.
Flew out there.
Has nothing to do with the hydro flask.
Nope. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally a separate company.
Gotcha.
They're in northern Idaho. They do a lot of vans and buses with radiant in-floor heat and
Gotcha.
a lot of like heater systems.
Right.
They're the guys that chase snow year round. You know,
Gotcha.
they want to ski and snowboard
Yeah.
and sled and do
Yeah.
that stuff. So they've kind of encompassed their company around that.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
And so they only build buses?
They do vans and buses. Pretty much any vehicle that you would be interested in taking off grid.
Oh, I see.
They've done a couple of those LVMTs.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
lightweight military vehicles,
Right,
a couple of those 6x6s.
Right. And off grid means that you're able to live off the grid, no electricity, no running water.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this bus that I have parked out here is just that. Everything works. All the systems works just like in your house. You wouldn't need to flip on switches or prime something to make, water work. You could just turn a faucet on like a regular faucet, plug something into an outlet like a regular house. The systems in this bus are totally maintainable by the solar panels and the batteries that the bus has.
So you have the solar panels on top. It charges the batteries. It trickle charges into them.
Yep. So
go ahead.
I have 6 residential solar panels on this bus, which gives me the ability to have large wattage solar panels. So I have 2,400 watts of solar on the bus. It works out to about 15 kilowatts of battery power, which is roughly 1,200 amp hours at 12 volts.
Wow.
Which is most of how these systems in these vehicles run.
Okay.
My system is all a 48 volt system, and everything is stepped back down to 12 volts.
Oh, I see.
I did that just simply for space for batteries.
Sure.
My battery compartment is a higher amperage than most 12 volt systems and about a quarter of the size.
Oh, wow. Gotcha. And it's all tucked away under the bus, away from view.
Yep. So all of basically the heart of this bus is built underneath the bed, which is kind of like my faux garage space in the rear of the bus.
It's the storage area is kind of like it's still enclosed.
Absolutely.
From the elements.
Yep. Totally sealed in. It's built inside the bus, just in the rear of it. The rear door of the bus is still there, just like any conventional school bus. That opens up into an area that is built underneath the bed platform.
Gotcha.
And that's where all my water tanks, water pumps, the valves for the radiant in-floor heat. That's all off to one side. So my water systems are off to one side. My electrical systems are all off to the center. I'm sorry, the other side. In the center is 3.5 foot by 5 foot by 5 foot storage locker.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, wow.
With a 500 pound pull out tray, so you're not having to climb into a cubby and
cool.
retrieve stuff.
So you don't have to go in there. It just slides right out to you.
It all comes out to you.
It's kind of like a pickup truck.
Yep,
bed.
exactly.
Cool. So they basically sealed off, because usually when you open the back, you can see down the aisle of the school bus, but they sealed off right where your bed is.
That's correct. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can actually get into the interior of the bus from the back door.
Gotcha.
You're just in a like I said, like the faux garage
A
space.
trunk. Yeah, gotcha. And so the new part of your bus is all the entire strip that's primered, basically.
That's correct. Yep. Yep. So we got rid of all of the original school bus windows, which are uninsulated, single paned windows.
Right.
They're not necessarily made to sit outside in the rain and that kind of stuff. So you get a lot of leaking issues, and obviously heat and cool issues.
Sure.
So once we raised the roof 12 inches, we basically cut the pillars in between each window.
Oh, I see.
And that's where the extensions were put.
Gotcha.
And then you basically have a 4-foot by 8-foot galvanized piece of steel on the outside that is covering all of that, to where we cut in double paned awning style windows.
Oh, those are dual pane.
Those are dual paned acrylic windows, and they open awning style. So in a conventional RV where you have regular slidable windows, even if you have a large window and it slides, you're only opening half the window.
Right.
These, you're able to leave them open in the rain. You can open the entire window.
Because it folds out like that, you don't get hit with the actual.
That's exactly right.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yep. Retractable bug shades, retractable blackout shades.
Right.
It's all built into the frame of the window.
And like you're saying earlier, off camera, it has a Cat C7.
It does. So the motor in this is a Caterpillar C7. It's a 7.2 liter diesel motor. I picked this bus up with 220,000 miles.
Okay.
I'm not 100% positive what denotes a school district getting rid of a bus. I think it's more of an age than a mileage thing.
Gotcha.
These medium duty diesels are realistically good for about 600,000 or 700,000 miles.
And it seems just fine.
This is a strong, healthy motor. It's definitely a heavy bus, so going up the hills, it's a struggle bus. I won't
struggle
lie.
bus.
But yeah, it's a 65, 70 mile an hour bus on highways, no problem.
That's plenty.
Yeah.
And goes uphill just fine.
Yep, it goes up hills. I wouldn't say it goes up hills just fine, but it'll get to the top.
So it's basically a fully loaded bus.
Yeah.
All the time because of all the wood and
That's
everything
correct.
on there.
So my dry weight in this bus is 25,000 pounds.
Oh wow! So it doesn't require a CDL.
It does not. So I believe this is 50 state true. I could be wrong, but I believe it's 50 state true, where anything under 26,001 pounds is a non-CDL license.
Right. That's funny. So it's kind of like a interesting gray area loophole where you can just drive this with your regular Class C.
Yep. The semantics through this whole project or something like it is wildly different, varying state to state. And it's just that. It's all politics and semantics.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
And it has air brakes.
It does.
And you don't need an air brake endorsement for that?
Nope. So that kind of follows under that same loophole of being under 26,001 pounds.
Right.
If for some reason you re-registered this over 26,000 pounds.
Right. It only becomes an issue if DOT sees that.
That's correct. I want to say this is not 50 state true, but it 100% is in California.
Right.
Anything over 26,000 pounds, single axle, I believe would be a non-commercial Class B with an air brake endorsement.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think school buses are
So your commercial Class Bs with air brake endorsements.
Right. Because it would be over 26,000.
Yeah. And being in a commercial or a non-commercial license, those are going to be your differences of like your yearly testing and your yearly schedules.
Your medical card.
Exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
Commercial side gets a lot more strenuous.
Sure, because you're doing it for money, basically.
Exactly right. So if you had a leisure vehicle that you were stressed to do that, it's exactly that, right? It's an expense and headache on your side for no reason. It's really the semantics of state by state.
Crazy. And driving back from Idaho, no problem.
Yeah, it was a fun experience for sure.
Yeah.
I had a Class A license for a little bit when I was much younger. It's been 15 years since I've driven a big truck. So The first 100 miles was a little bit of a education for me, but
Right.
it drives like a big pickup truck.
Wow.
I have cameras all four sides. I thought for sure I'd be much more tied to my cameras than I was.
Right.
Drive straight, track straight.
Yeah. And it's probably visibility is not terrible with the mirrors and stuff you have.
Amazingly better than I thought. There's
Right.
there's endless amount of mirrors on these buses for obvious reasons, right? They're picking up
Kids.
90, 100 kids at a time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the visibility is fantastic.
Great.
And like I said, I have cameras on all four sides for the areas that you couldn't see.
Yeah.
So
So I guess probably my final question for you about this bus is, what do you plan to do with it? Are you just going to be living off grid all the time, or some of the time? Are you like camping, or
yeah? So I would say the most people that have buses like this, you get a line down the middle. I think most people, you either do it because you're forced into something like this,
Sure.
or you made the choice to relinquish like your regular brick and mortar home. And COVID gave a lot of people the opportunity to take their work on the road.
Right.
I work in the motion picture business, so unfortunately my work is very tied to Hollywood at the moment.
Sure.
I will not be living in my bus full time. I do have a regular brick and mortar house in California. But with that being said, I do plan on taking 5 or 6 months off every year and travel.
Cool.
So full time, part time.
That's cool. And to be able to kind of get the photos on your Instagram and
Exactly
all the things
right? Yeah, I got into traveling really just for the sake of traveling, right? A lot of us get so tied up into our daily lives that we forget that the world exists outside of
Right.
our concrete jungles we live in.
Right.
So I made a point when I was a little bit younger to get out there and see some stuff and make sure I knew that trees existed and things like that.
That's cool. That's awesome. One last question I was kind of curious about. If anyone has ever been around an RV, you know that there's always a gray water tank and a black water tank. And gray water is all the non-urine and feces, basically your shower, your sink, whatever,
correct.
right?
That's correct.
And then
Yes.
the black water tank is all your pee and poop and all that.
Yep.
And so how does that work being an off-grid bus?
Yep. So you definitely there are a couple of options for sure, and I think that really goes much more to the person that is building the vehicle. In my bus, I have what's called a compost toilet, so I have 0 black water tanks.
Oh,
It is a standalone toilet. It has a urine diverter, so you are never mixing urine and feces, so you are technically never making sewage. There's an internal fan. It's essentially an adult human grade kitty litter box. It's got an internal auger, some media in there, a fan to vent all the odors and stuff outdoors. It's worked out pretty good. I think the choice you have to make when you're building something like this is you're trying to figure out what you feel is the less of two evils.
gotcha.
You either have, your black water tank where you have to hook up a 4-inch hose to it and
that technically wouldn't be off grid, right? I mean, you would have to go service, or you have to go to service.
That's exactly right. You have holding tanks. So obviously if you had solar panels and batteries where you don't need to plug in for power,
Right.
depending on the size of your black water tank and that kind of stuff, you can be off grid for however long
it
your
takes.
tanks
You're
last.
Right.
But then you definitely need to go service and drain your tanks. Similar in the aspect of a compost toilet, but we have made the law in this country where compost realistically takes months to be authentic compost. We've made a law where we're able to dispose of human grade feces in regular waste bins. So I won't need much more than a local dumpster or a trash can.
So it's literally just like dumping your kitty litter out and just wrapping
Exactly
it up
that.
in a bag and tossing it.
It's much more fancy than this, but if you thought of it like a bag in a 5-gallon bucket.
Wow.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
And the gray water tank, sorry, how big's the water tank that you have on board?
Yep. So I have 105 gallons of fresh water.
Okay.
And there is an RO system built into the inlet to the bus. So any water that is being fed into the bus for an onboard tank is going through a full RO system.
What's
so it's
RO?
all reverse osmosis filtered
okay.
water.
Wow.
So by the time waters get into my holding tank, it's potable, drinkable water.
Wow.
I have split 40-gallon gray water tanks. So I have 40 gallons for gray water for my sink and a separate 40 gallons of gray water for my shower.
Okay.
And that's for you to kind of, instead of taking, a shower every day and filling up your tank with that, or washing dishes every day and filling up your water with that, you're able to kind of live more off grid, I guess, and pick and choose. Maybe you're not going to take a shower today because your tanks are full, or I need to wash my dishes. This is empty.
Right.
Being gray water, you do have the luxury of, obviously you need to use biodegradable soaps and be environmentally friendly, but you do have the opportunity of disposing into groundwater. So obviously remove yourself several hundred feet away from a water source. Like I said, make sure you're using all biodegradable soaps, no harsh chemicals, and you're able to
Technically dump.
drain.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. That bus is super cool.
I appreciate
So
that.
cool.
This has been a...
I'm excited for you to take it out and do your thing and see how you end up enjoying life off grid.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get out there and explore some of the places.
Do you have some time off coming up soon? That
I've been fortunate enough in my work to have work. This is a slow time in our business, but I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of TV shows. Currently, my schedule is through the beginning of March of 2025.
Okay.
I do have 4 weeks off between the Christmas and New Year's time.
Okay.
So I'll take it out and go out for a month and really just test it out and see some of the systems and get it set up for the next break I have. 2025, I'm gonna make a point of taking some time off. So I think I'll take all of summer into fall off.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, thanks for telling us about your bus.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Sure, yeah. Let me just switch gears for a little bit. Tell us about yourself. You said you were in the motion picture business.
Yep. So my name's Terry Gunter, like we already discussed. I currently work in the motion picture business. I'm in the camera department. My bread and butter in that business is multicam TV. I don't do a lot of features. I don't do a lot of single cam. We do a lot of like specialty equipment. I work with camera cranes, telescoping cranes, fixed arm cranes, that kind of stuff, but mostly all multicam. I've been doing that for about 15 years.
Wow.
I was fortunate enough to get into this business, which is a very hard business to get into. My family, all the way to my grandparents on my father's side, were all in this business.
Wow.
So it was very much a family shoe-in kind of business.
Wow.
When I was much younger, I made an effort to try to not be in this business. I always felt like it was a handout, a shoe-in, a gift that wasn't necessarily asked for.
Oh,
I tried to make my own way. I worked in the automotive business for a little over 10 years as well.
Wow.
Built off-road race cars, long travel buggies. Did that for 3 years, and then worked at iBox Springs. I was their coilover designer and suspension builder. Did that for about 8.5, 9 years.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Wow. And then at some point you were like,
yeah, I mean,
jump into it.
it's like everything. As we get a little older in life and our bills get a little bit more expensive,
Sure.
we all try to make the better life choice.
Sure.
And as fun as those jobs were, unfortunately, it got to the point where it wasn't paying my mortgage and it wasn't putting food in my fridge anymore.
right.
So I made the life choice to be financially responsible and feasible enough for myself. So
Gotcha.
As fun as those jobs were, like I said, it just didn't make sense as I got a little older.
Gotcha. You said you do multicam. You don't do very much single cam. What's single cam?
Yep,
Like
so-
what's a I guess an example of something that's single cam?
Yep. So if you're watching TV and you're watching a 1 hour drama, 99% they're single camera shows.
Oh, really?
A lot of those shows that are on practical locations that go outside and film at the beach or film at a park on real practical locations, 9 out of 10 times they're single camera shows. You have a much more of an opportunity to be artsy on a single camera show in the stylistic way that you're shooting it.
Oh.
You have one, possibly two cameras at a time, and each shot, virtually line by line, is filmed.
Oh.
Do a couple of lines, change a camera position,
Gotcha.
set up, move on in the scene. The difference between that and a multicam show is we have 4 cameras basically in a horseshoe around the action at all times. We're set up on 4 different shots at the same time. We're never going back to reset up shots. We may change shots and get pickups of action and stuff, but we always have our singles and our wides and our group shots all built into the cameras that are all recording at the same time.
Gotcha. So it's usually catered towards a certain type of show.
Yep. So, a lot of it has to do with the budgets a lot of these shows get. So, half-hour shows, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to be multicam shows. Where your single cam practical location shows, they have a much healthier budget.
Gotcha.
And it's all it's really about the time it takes to film something. Obviously, with 4 cameras, you're going to be quicker and trying to do the same thing than you are with 1.
Right. Oh, wow. And did you... so it's not like you were inherently into cameras.
Nope. I was much more into cars growing up. Much more into cars.
Yeah.
And a little later in my life, even before I got into the motion picture business, I got really into long distance hiking and backpacking.
Oh, wow.
And I started taking a camera on those trips with me, and that's what really got me into photographing and the camera side of stuff.
Gotcha.
That was really my first taste of like the technical aspect of cameras.
Gotcha. Sorry, I guess maybe I should have started with this beforehand, but where were you born and raised?
Oh, I'm a Southern California guy.
Oh, okay.
I'm born and raised Los Angeles, the suburb of West Hills.
Oh, nice.
Born and raised here my whole life.
Oh, cool. You went to school out here, blah, blah, blah.
Yep,
Did all
I
that.
went to elementary, middle school, high school out here. I went to a trade school called Wyotech in Sacramento.
Oh, wow. Well, that's like you said, that's a car thing, right? I remember seeing the that name is so familiar.
It's familiar to, I think, a lot of our older guys. Not older, but maybe not in the 25, 30 years old. I guess Wyotech in there a couple of years ago, they had a little bit of a lawsuit where they tried to say, like any school that you go to for anything, that they will place you and help you find jobs, but that's not necessarily the truth with, I would say, almost 100% of the jobs that you get out there. It's hard to go from a school into a good paying job.
Right.
I've always said with anything that I do, you're going to learn way more in the first couple of hours in a practical job than you are reading 10 books.
Yeah. Wow. God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then, so you went there, and then after that, you were just in...
Yep, so I went to Wyotech, like I said. I was 19 years old when I went there. Came back down to Southern California. Got right into automotive work.
Wow.
Funny enough, I worked for a company called Shelley Ward. I was on the I was on the automotive side of that. But that is a company that caters to the motion picture business.
Oh, interesting.
They supply... I would say almost all of the vehicles you see on screen for newspapers, magazines, commercials, TV shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So funny enough, I got into the automotive side with that company.
So they take care of like motion picture vehicles?
Yep, anything from the cars that you crash, cars you explode, cars you crush, to the nice shiny ones for the new prints for magazines or new promotional stuff for a car that's coming out, not released. We did a lot of commercials for prototypes. We did all kinds of stuff.
How cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so random.
Almost anything you can think of as far as a car related into print.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never been married, no kids?
Never been married, no kids. I do have 2 little cats I will be traveling with.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's right, because you got the cat tree in the bus.
Yep, those are my little companions.
Michael and Jack.
That's correct. Yep, yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Wow, that's so awesome. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming out. One question I always ask my guests before they leave or before I let them go is, if you had to give your 15-year-old self a piece of advice, what would you tell them?
That's a great question. I would say follow your intuition. Don't let your internal dialogue stop you from what your intuition's telling you to do. We all have our reservations and we all wait too long to do the things that it's the driving force in all of us. I think just follow your intuition.
Awesome. Do you feel like, do you say that now because of the life lessons and certain...
Yeah, absolutely. My father, he passed away 8 years ago. He was a gentleman that worked incredibly hard his entire life to give his family and his kids a great life. And he did. Unfortunately, he was medically retired from work. He got diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh, wow.
So he was medically retired and then passed away a couple years after that. And I feel like that was a great life lesson of don't wait until you feel like you have the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to make the time and do what your gut's telling you to do.
And basically don't wait.
Yeah, it was a great life lesson. He's someone that, like I said, worked his whole life to give his family everything, and he did that really successfully.
Right.
My heart always would break for him in the fact that I feel like he worked so hard for his retirement and absolutely got robbed of it.
Didn't.
So what a wonderful life lesson that I'll cherish forever, in the fact that don't wait until you feel like it's your time.
Right.
I think it's important to make the time now.
Wow.
The tomorrows are never the guarantee.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. That's so deep, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important lesson I think I'll keep forever.
Awesome. And that's awesome that you're able to do the things that you want to do now. Like you literally, you're able to take off maybe, 3-4 months out of the year and go travel in the bus that you were able to.
And I mean, in the same breath, we're all kind of conceptualize, how is he able to do that? It's as tricky for me as it would be for anyone else.
Sure.
It's really just a matter of telling yourself it's the time to do it and making the mental note of taking the time off to do it.
No need to wait till you're 62 to do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the gift we all hope for, but it's the gift we all don't necessarily, we're not guaranteed to get.
Right. You never know. You never know when your time is.
That's right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, with that, appreciate you coming in.
Gosh, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Absolutely. Once again, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and continue watching if you like it. If you don't, you should still put it on in the background. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the All Luck No Skill podcast. All Luck No Skill is produced and edited by VBG Solutions. Logo design and illustration by Mirage Native. Theme song is Let's Ride by White Hot. You can watch video episodes of All Luck No Skill at youtube.com/ChunkyPoo.
Pretzel.